Hello, everybody, and welcome to How to Be a Human. My name is Tatiana Miller, and I am feeling very inspired today because my plan was to talk about power and how it impacts us as humans today. And coincidentally, I came to the radio station and ran into somebody, and we started talking. I ran into Greg, who also has a show, and we started talking about life, I guess.
Yeah.
And we decided that he needed to be on the show today and jump on because I've been discussing on every episode different aspects of being human that we wish that we were exposed to as children, that we wish were being taught in schools, that we wish college students were exposed to. And my heart has been very, very heavy this week. The loss of a loved one, disappointments in my child's life, but most importantly, the intense amount of suffering that we're seeing around us at every level. I was discussing with Greg briefly, which we'll get into the show, how I have resisted social media. I've resisted the internet. I'm like, I sound like an old person. Change! I don't want change! I still want to listen to my record, my LP. It's funny because my son, my 10-year-old, asked, my husband and I were having a discussion, and my husband's like, yeah, a mixtape. My friend had a mixtape. And my 10-year-old is looking at us like, what are you talking about? What do you mean a mixtape? Like, did you take tape and, color it? And my husband's like, and I said, a playlist? A playlist?
Playlist.
Does that resonate with
gosh.
you? And he was like, yeah, a playlist. So I know things have changed. I understand that, the internet is now our platform to connect with others. But I have, the topic of today is power struggles, and I have felt a lot of darkness with social media. However, it just so happens that I have a dear friend, Shelby, if you're listening, who said to me, I wake up every morning and watch TikTok because it makes me laugh. And it's sort of therapeutic for me. So she started sending me TikTok videos, and I started watching some of these people and feeling a connection, right? And I love to dance, and TikTok is a big dance platform. And so when I watch some of these people dance, it shifts my energy. It shifts that inner struggle of, I've been feeling very down, as so many people that I know have been feeling down. We've been in this power struggle, intense power struggle. Greg and I were discussing how, in my view, we're experiencing one of the most profound, I know for sure in my life, Greg brought up, and he'll go deeper into it in just a second, how this isn't new, right? Humanity has seen these power struggles forever. This is how life has been done.
Exactly.
But I never imagined being a part of a war in my life, and we are certainly in a war.
Absolutely.
I picked my intro song for my show to be I Got Called Out from the Dark, because I truly believe that spiritually there's this continuous struggle of light versus darkness, right? And Star Wars said it. I'm serious. I don't like sci-fi movies, but they did it right? Light versus darkness. They did it right.
Oh, my goodness.
And we all have, what are those swords called? That light up?
Lightsaber.
We all have
Yes.
lightsabers. We just don't know how to use them. Yeah.
Yes. I love the sound of those things.
I know. So I just want to go, before I bring Greg in, I want to go into what I had planned for this show. But as I told my older son, Luca, just yesterday, I said, really, 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 everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
There are no coincidences. There are miracles.
Absolutely.
Right? There are miracles in life. And miracles can be small, like watching a bird, fly, or watching a flower blossom. Or they can be huge, right? Like running into the right person at the right time.
Absolutely.
And that's what happened this morning. So that's part of power, right?
Exactly.
And not resisting it, because Greg came here to help me because I'm an idiot with technology.
No, you're not. You haven't remembered that you already know what you're doing yet. That's all it is.
Right. I haven't embraced it.
Exactly. You're absolutely limitless.
I haven't. Right. There's pure potential in all of us.
Absolutely.
Right? So he came to help me. I'd never met him before. He's also part of the radio station, and we got to talking. And I have been struggling with my inner power struggles, and it's nothing real, right? I know rationally, my rational brain, my training tells me like you're winning.
Right.
You're perfectly fine. My inner power struggle has been feeling such low energy. You know, I've seen a lot of loss recently. I've seen a lot of people around me struggle. I've had recent experiences with people that are codependent, that don't know how to harness their inner turmoil, right? Been vomited onto me.
Right.
And
I absolutely understand that.
And then also just every day, right? Every day when you turn on the news or look online to read, it's just this huge testimony of a power struggle.
Exactly.
Right? Of an ideological war.
Right.
And the thing that made me say, okay, Greg, let's do this, let's jump on, is that he's a spiritual coach. And I always talk from a holistic medicine perspective of getting to the root of the issue, right?
Absolutely.
We are a society and a culture of band-aiding. And we're doing that with our spirituality as well.
Absolutely.
And I don't know what you think, I'd love to hear, but I think that I always like to look at history, and to get to the root of something, we have to understand how we got here.
Right. Well,
and I look at the history of the United States, and we see people that were fighting, right, for their freedom, their physical freedom, but also their spiritual freedom.
Right.
And we saw the struggle, we saw the winning, we saw the conquering, we saw the pioneering, and now I feel like we've reversed.
Yeah.
Because people don't feel comfortable, right? Part of my show is having these courageous conversations, and I'd love to hear what you think. People do not feel comfortable touching on spirituality with others or discussing their views or their beliefs. Would you agree?
I definitely run into that, but I have a very simple way of getting past that social stigma, that kind of built in, ooh, that's too woo woo, or that goes against my beliefs kind of thing. I've kind of developed a way to kind of go around that, and it's literally simply speaking out of being aligned with myself.
Right.
It's speaking from a point of view that doesn't, it's not constantly, gauging, okay, so if I make this social mistake, then it's going to lead in this social results, If I do this, then this person's going to, go kill themselves,
But doesn't that come down to power? Like the power that we give others.
Exactly.
And the power that others, and others could be a teacher, it could be your partner, it could be a friend, it could be somebody you don't know on social media, it can be the government.
Exactly.
Right? We give our power, and there are power dynamics in everything we do.
Absolutely.
And part of what I was looking forward to discussing today is, how does that happen? Well, it's training.
Exactly,
right?
Exactly. So for me, that training, that programming, my wife and I were just having a conversation about this last night. That programming is, like you said earlier, it starts young. It starts as a child, even before school.
Right.
Because, at birth, right then you already have some babies that are already in Longhorns or UT, all this good stuff. So you have all these ideologies that at birth you're already bombarded with.
Right.
Because now, I like to talk about when you are born, like that moment, that first breath.
Wait, but pause right there, right? This is a hot topic, and I don't mean this in a hot topic way, okay?
I love that place.
Right, yeah. I have seen and felt, being an empath and working with energy, working with children at a children's hospital, and listening to them speak the truth, right, that they know is true. I believe that life, right, and the ability to perceive the energy starts in the womb.
Absolutely.
And so that's why they see like brainwaves change when you play music for children, or when they recognize dad's voice.
Right.
They learn to recognize dad's voice in the mom's womb.
Absolutely.
And so I think that it starts before birth.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. 100%. I mean, I feel like the second that the cells, like the very cells, start to multiply.
Right.
That is consciousness.
Right, because the cell is alive.
Exactly. Well, because I mean, every bit of atomic structure that we are accustomed to, that we can touch, feel, everything has its own consciousness.
Right.
It's doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Right.
And it's not being told how to do it.
Right.
So that's a consciousness at a very basic level. Right?
I call that energy. Everything is energy, and it manifests in different ways.
100%. 100%.
And it can't, like, something that I like to teach young children that I have to remind myself all the time is, like, you can't create or destroy energy. You can only transform it.
100%.
Right? So that goes back to that spirituality. Like, it's not of us. It's not of us. It's we are a part of it.
Right.
And we're all in it together.
And I feel like the truth is so I do this practice called see it, feel it, allow it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So the see it is using your imagination, the part of you that really knows no bounds, So, and then feeling that, because when you feel anything, it makes it real. Like,
that's how we perceive
that's
the world.
how we're perceiving
through
the
our
world
senses,
through our central nervous system. It's making things real, right? So when you feel it on an emotional level, on an experiential level, then now you've created it. And then now the allowing part is kind of one and the same. It happens, right? But what we're talking about, the source of that, of the reason why that's the way that life is like that more than us part.
Right.
That more than us part for me isn't. It's more than me. It is me. The me that doesn't have ego.
Right.
The me that was before the name Greg McBrayer, before the social security number, before the I like this, before I don't like this, before that.
Before the labels.
Exactly.
I call those labels.
Exactly.
And I call those, I see that as part of the programming. And the programming, so I think part of it too is what you and I are doing in this discussion is showing people how this detachment, right? When you look at things from a detached way, like I had a neuropsychologist reach out to me, whom I hope to have on the show, but that I used to work with at the hospital, and they were talking to me about mindfulness, and they talk a lot about different things, and I said that's called awareness, right? But these are things that we don't normally, unless you're me or you probably.
Right.
We don't teach our kids
exactly
these things,
exactly,
which is so important. So the programming starts, and immediately there's confusion. In my opinion, immediately there's there's a baby, and babies are, in my opinion, sponges of energy.
Exactly.
And they are the real truth and manifestation of how we were meant to live. Feel it, express it, move on.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And we lose the ability to do that with our programming, right? I've talked about on the show, it all starts with our surroundings, right? Like, what were our caregivers like, whether that be mom or dad or grandpa and grandpa, or people that were in an orphanage that did not receive a lot of love.
Right.
We don't pick that.
Right.
Or do we?
But see, and I love that you just went there. Boom. Exploded. That was awesome.
That's another hot topic, right? Like, do souls get to do it again? Do we not get to do it again? Why is that so threatening to people? I talked about death on my last show.
I love the topic of death.
Because to me, I've watched I've been with patients as they pass. I've been honored to do that, and I've seen that death is peaceful,
100%.
even in turmoil, even when you're in pain. Death is a peaceful thing. We shouldn't be scared of it, yet it's people's worst. That and public speaking.
Right. Well, I mean, maybe we'll come back and we'll talk about death more, because like it really is an interesting topic. But you know, it's taking off the label of this is good, this is bad.
Right.
That, you know, that childlike, you know, experiential life. I feel like that's the whole reason why we have this beautiful central nervous system that has an innumerable number of nerve endings.
Right.
That are constantly growing and creating new nerve endings.
And building bridges.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we look at neuroscience and we see that our brain is capable of literally physically rewriting itself, you know, by simple thought process.
Or meditation.
You know? Well, that's
or
that's,
not thinking.
that's the meditation part.
That's the healing.
It's the thought
that's
process.
That's what heals, yeah.
Right. I mean, what is meditation? A thought process.
Right.
You know, I mean, it might be a lack of thought, but it's still a process in mind. So, you know, all of that we see is the absolute beauty of existence. It's literally built to experience.
Oh, absolutely. And I always say, you know, part of this fear and this forgetting, oh no, I'm getting a text that says no audio.
Uh-oh.
Still no audio?
Yeah, I got that on. Everything's on.
Okay. We'll see.
Oh, wait, on live. There we go.
Oh my gosh, were we not live?
Well, we're live. we were just muted. But on the radio I heard it. So
so we were
yeah.
did record. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So hopefully you can hear now. I would have hated to have missed this great conversation.
Absolutely.
That would have been tragic.
But listen, you know that I'm gonna send you this recording.
Perfect.
I'm recording this,
Okay.
so we got all of this.
Okay, great.
Everything always it makes way for
She
itself.
said, so they're telling me I'm getting to still no audio.
Well, like I said, I just unmuted it, so.
Okay. Well, either way,
live.
we have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got it. All the things that are supposed to be where they're supposed to be when I'm on my show are where they're supposed to be. So I'm feeling like we're good.
Okay, good. If not, we have the other recording.
Exactly.
Okay. So anyway, let's go back to babies and consciousness.
Ooh, yes.
Because I feel like that's where
it is the beginning.
Well, the GPS is set. You know, and I truly believe that trauma, right? But let's just talk about me and other empaths. You don't fine tune these abilities that we all have, like you said, we all have them, unless you're experiencing trauma.
Right.
Because that's where it's the nervous system, which I think is where we should all focus.
Absolutely.
You know, when the hospital asked me to put together a yoga therapy program, I said, it should really be called stress management.
You know, stress,
because it's all
that
about
term.
managing your stress. And there's good stress, right? And there's stress that's not so beneficial, but it's all about, do I know how to regulate my nervous system? To me, that's the magic of being able to align.
Right.
From the physical perspective.
So you know, back to like the babies, you know, like the beginning. So after actual birth, and you know, now you're able to kind of work this central nervous system that is still developing.
Right.
You're able to feel and all this good stuff. I want to ask a question though.
Okay.
When in all of your travels and all of your experiences, every time you look at a baby, what's the feeling that you get when you look into a baby's eyes?
Purity.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know if that's a word in English, purity.
Purity it is now.
Pureness.
Exactly. I make up words all the time.
I see a clean slate. And I see, you know, similar to when you look at a dog, right? And why they're so beneficial for you. It's this just purity. It's an easy flow of energy.
Exactly. But you know, even more than that, it is at the foundation of what we all are. That's the start. That's where we all start.
Right.
And that doesn't leave us.
No. Well, yeah, we forget.
Well, exactly. So
yes.
So it's like having like when you're a kid getting your the most amazing, your favorite toy, and you love it so dearly, and you never stop loving it, and you lose it, right? And you thought it's gone forever, right? And you go your entire life, and still, like, you think of that toy.
Right.
It's like then going back to your mom's house and finding it, and being like, "Holy, it was here this whole time!
Right.
Oh my God!" Like that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's like it never actually went anywhere.
No,
It's never actually not accessible to you
right.
at any time.
So that's what Ayurveda says that all disease, whether that be feeling depressed or that be actually having a physical disease, that all disease starts when you forget your true nature of self.
Exactly.
In that moment, when we forget, we become ill.
Exactly.
And I've seen it. I've seen people whose physical body is in decay,
right.
and not in a good place, and their soul is vibrant, is
right.
pure, is happy.
Exactly.
And same thing with people that aren't sick. Like, I remember I went to Africa, and I was with the Maasai tribe. The Maasai tribe
awesome.
has, what we perceive extreme poverty. But they perceive themselves as rich.
Absolutely.
They live in elephant poop huts.
Yeah.
And they hunt for what they eat.
Yeah.
And they are prey to the most extreme predators in the world, and those children, I'll never forget, it was one of the most impactful experiences for me, because those children were smiling, they were happy, and not only that, they were creative. Our children now are not creative. They are becoming drones, they're becoming robots, unless we are provoking them to be creative. And I think that's really important about what we forget and what we're exposed to, because those people that have nothing, I mean, literally, they traded me a knife that they had made for my New Balance shoes.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Because they run after what they eat, and so they wanted my tennis shoes. And,
man, that is awesome.
To me, like, I still have the knife at home. Like, they made it, They made, like, the holder, the leather's too tight on it. You can't really pull it out, But to me, I'm like, this is priceless.
Exactly.
And to them, those tennis shoes, they probably rotate them. I'm serious, like, it's amazing how we lose perspective of things depending on what is around us.
Absolutely.
Yet those kids and those families in the Maasai tribe have the same makeup that you and I have. And so I think this is important for people to remember as we are struggling, with whatever power struggles we're struggling with, because we're all struggling with something at every moment. But isn't that part of the design?
So I feel like that's not part of the design. I feel like that's part of the program. I feel like, like I said, like as a baby, the start, like, you look into a baby's eyes, even when they're crying, and you still see the pureness. You still see that unconditional love. It's like it's beautiful, So even when they're quote unquote struggling and they're crying and they made a poopy or whatever, that's still that is what they're operating out of.
Right.
That is the basis of their existence.
Right.
So for me, I feel like as we get older and as the program becomes more of a program with the society that we live in, our where our parents are, or what they think, how they feel, the religion that we're in, the social standpoint that we're in, how much money we make, all this stuff that doesn't actually exist.
Right.
All these things.
Constructs.
Exactly. All these things that are simply points of perspective. It's all they are, and are never to be taken seriously.
No.
So like all we ever have to do to find that alignment is literally look within ourselves. Everything outside is simply a manifestation of what's already within.
Right.
So
or a projection. Right.
Right.
A
projection manifestation. It's like the root, like you said, the root is here.
The root is there. I heard someone, I don't remember who it was, but it was this week, talk about we're all magical wands walking around.
Absolutely.
we've never learned to access that inside of us.
We'll come back after the
Yeah.
show because
Yeah.
and I saw the
We're about
time. I have something that I want to kind of perspective.
Okay.
That I want to share.
Okay. Yeah. So before that, I there was something that came up for me as you were talking about. They're all constructs. I think that people that spend most of their mental energy on focusing on lack, right?
Yeah.
That's the reality they live. They live a reality of, this new thing that we were diagnosing kids with, fear of missing out. That is not real.
Yeah.
That's what?
Yeah.
I can't even. I don't even know where to go with that.
You know where that started though?
No.
Sales, economy,
Marketing.
capitalism.
Marketing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And for me that is, well, I studied a long time ago, right? I studied communications, and I remember in a journalism class, the professor said, there's only 3 things you need to understand. 3 things: sex, power, and money. And we'll be back. Yeah.
For real though. Oh my goodness, I love this. Wow.
Yeah, this was great.
Absolutely. I absolutely love your energy.
Yeah, so I ran, I was part of the pain team at Cook Children's for 10 years, and I developed the first holistic program in a hospital in the country.
Wow.
And I had to learn to be a translator because it freaks people out.
Right.
Like, they would ask me, like, what did you do with that patient, right? When, like, pain medicine wasn't working.
Right.
What did you do with that patient? And I'd be like, Reiki? I can't say that.
Right.
You can't say that to a doctor.
Yeah,
They're like,
yeah, no,
what the hell are you talking
Yeah.
about, And then they're like, well, you can't do that to
Right.
people. And I'm like, but they love it.
Yeah.
And it feels good. So I had to learn to translate. So I got into the neurology department at Cook, studied neuroscience, right, and made it all about the nervous system.
That's awesome.
And all of a sudden, they were like, oh, come, do conferences,
Right.
educate, talk. And I'm like, it's the same stuff.
Exactly.
It's just you want to hear it in your language so that you don't feel threatened.
Right.
And our medical system is falling apart, so nobody wants to hear that a Band-Aid and a pain pill is not the answer.
Mm-hmm. See, the way that my partner and I, the way that we do business is we kind of take and mix the terms that people are wanting to hear, mix those together, because our goal is to like make a new vernacular. Like, so you don't. I have to say this. No, we're going to talk about Reiki right now.
Right. Right. And you can't be. The more authentic you are, is what I've found with people, the more receptive they are.
Absolutely.
Even if it's totally different from what they know.
It's the energy that you're broadcasting.
Right.
It's
exactly
absolutely beautiful and unstoppable.
Right.
Because now you're literally manifesting on purpose.
Right. But people don't know what that means.
Right.
There's a journey there.
That's why we're here. We're changing that.
All right, welcome back to How to Be a Human. I'm Tatiana Miller, and we have Greg on, who also has a show. When is your show, Greg?
I didn't even think about that. My show is Wednesdays at 2 p.m.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my show. That's my plug there.
There we go. Awesome. No, definitely. We all, in these times of turmoil and pain and suffering that we're seeing, because I don't know one person that's not experiencing one of these feelings currently. Everybody in different ways, for different reasons.
Exactly.
But more than anything, we need to put out things that are uplifting. We need to put out things that bring hope to people.
Exactly.
We talked about in the last segment light versus dark. And also for me, we were just talking about on the break, how nice it is to be around people who are not worried about these barriers and are not worried about opinions.
Exactly.
Or worried about, is this person going to like it or not like it? And I feel like the media, we ended the last segment, I told you what my journalism professor told me.
That's awesome.
Understand sex, power, and money, because those things control the world.
Right.
And that's why I wanted to talk about power struggles, because I have found in me and working with patients that when people understand the how they got there and why things are happening, all of a sudden, it's not that serious, right? All of a sudden, what was it that you said, Greg, about you made a comment. I said that's not real. Oh, fear of missing out, right? This new diagnosis that people have, fear of missing out, and I'm like, that's not real. Like, I don't even know what to say to people because of missing out of what? Like, that's not your moment.
Exactly.
If you're not there, it's not your moment.
So I actually point this out when I coach gymnastics. It's funny. I say I'm coaching gymnastics. Gymnastics coaching disguise or backwards. Life coaching disguises gymnastics coaching, because it's fear. The fear is like, oh, I can't do this. So it's the same concept of FOMO.
Right.
Of there's future events that I'm anxious about or I'm fearing, whether it's I don't want to miss out, or I don't want that to happen, or
I don't want to mess up.
Exactly.
I don't want to try and fail.
Right.
Because gymnastics is a big leap of faith with your body.
Exactly. but then again, when you do that skill that you're working on, then it's like, wait, hold on, I've always been able to do that.
Right.
It's this profound understanding that, wait, I've actually always been able to do that. I break it down. I ask my students, is the brain in your head, is that yours? Like, yeah. It's like, okay. So is the body that you have right now, is that yours? Like, okay, yeah, it's mine. Like, do you believe that your brain controls your body? Yeah. Like, do you believe that you control your brain? Yeah. So would you rather your body do what you want it to do than what you don't want it to do? And that's simple there. And they're like, oh. And then 9 times out of 10, they either improve greatly or do it on their own.
Right.
So it's that understanding that, hold on, wait a minute. With anything that I'm feeling, it's my choice.
Oh, yeah. Talk about power struggles, right? It's a choice.
Exactly.
It's a choice. And yeah, so like the name of my company, it's been that way for a long time, is Mind Body Play.
I love it. Oh, I love the play, yeah.
When you look at it, and my husband is really good at this, which is why I've spent my life studying, how to be at peace. I'm not so good at it. He's very natural at it, but he's always like, so what? That happened. It's part of life. Laugh at it. And I'm like, laugh at it! Laugh at it! What do you mean laugh at it? He's like,
but didn't you know this?
Yeah, because remember the play, right?
Absolutely.
Because we started talking about babies and how do they learn? How do we learn about the world? Hopefully if you're in the right nurturing environment, you cater toddlers and babies to play.
Absolutely.
We discovered the word through playing, and at some point it stops being play and it starts being intimidating and frustrating and penetrating our ability to feel joy. And at some point we switch. That's saying, like, youth is wasted on the young.
Right.
One of my favorite things about accepting and getting more used to social media is watching these videos I told you on TikTok. And one of my favorite things is like these 2 older ladies that dance.
Oh yeah, I think I know exactly.
And I promise you, they're like 90. They're amazing.
Right next to each other.
Yes.
They're like, they do this.
Yes. And they're amazing, and they have great rhythm, and they're loving life. And you think about like all of these things that they've seen and they experience, and they still find the ability to tap into this play.
Absolutely.
And joy. And I think like you with gymnastics and me with yoga, I find that the more power struggles there are inside of a person, the more rigid they are with their body.
Absolutely.
And people, they always like, oh, I can't do gymnastics, or oh, I can't do yoga, or oh, I can't touch my toes. And I'm like, but it's not about that.
Right.
Like, and rigidity starts with your mindset.
Absolutely.
It has nothing to do with your body. Your body is going to do whatever you tell it to do.
Exactly.
Hence, what's that magician that can be in water? Blaine, is that his name?
David Blaine. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to put him down. I mean, it's really fun to watch him, but that's not magic. It's self-regulation.
Exactly. So actually, that's a great point. So every day I do a specific breathing exercise, meditation. So and I just built this really cool like spiral on my property. It's really awesome. But anyways, so I sit and I do the breathing exercise where I breathe only in through my nose and out through my nose.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally supersaturate my body with oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
Others would call it hyperventilating,
Yeah,
So,
which is why some people feel anxious when they first learn to breathe properly.
Exactly.
Because they haven't had the real amount of oxygen that they need. It makes them feel nervous instead of relaxed.
Well, also in the state of mind that you're in, and that dictates whether you're going to feel, bliss or anxious or like that anxiety gripping, something bad's gonna happen kind of thing, right?
But anxiety, right? Anxiety, depending on how you're perceiving it, could be bliss or could be terror.
Well,
same thing.
It's like I describe with my students. Like I asked them literally. I asked them, would you rather be excited about a backhand handspring by yourself, or would you rather be fearful about a backhand handspring by yourself? And I do that because the feeling, the body response, the nervous system response is the same
oxytocin
for both.
Mm-hmm. Endorphins.
Exactly.
Going, that felt great.
So it's literally a perception. That's all that makes it a good or bad, which is literally what makes anything good or bad in life, because it's our perception.
Mm-hmm.
So because the body is doing the exact same thing for both feelings, why not choose the one you want?
Right, right. Which brings us back to choice. It's so important, right?
Absolutely.
So I want to get into, so we're babies. We start to learn these responses, right? We start to learn how to perceive things based on what the adults around us are modeling.
Exactly.
Or the other children around us are modeling. Because we learn by watching.
Right. And
we learn by using our senses to bring perception into the brain,
exactly.
right? That's why you have kids in other cultures that learn to deal with like hot coals, and to them it's not burning.
Right.
And to me and my child, we're like,
Yeah.
So it's all about what you learn and what you train yourself to do, which brings us to the current state of affairs, right? There's more diagnoses now of anxiety in youth than ever in history. Yeah. There's more suicides and alcohol use in adults than ever in history.
Right.
And everybody's talking about everything except how to heal ourselves, except how to get into a place of alignment. We're not really seeing that or hearing that.
Right.
And I truly believe that there's a lot of darkness around us that doesn't want us to be in alignment, that doesn't want us to heal. And I'm not talking about a society where there's utopia, because I don't believe that that's possible.
Right,
because humans are always going to have struggles and obstacles. And in the power dynamic, there's a balance that can be created because of it, right? Like even within the body, we talked about how the body is a magical machine, and I've been studying the nervous system for a long time, and I love it, and it's designed to help us survive.
Right.
So if we didn't have those feelings that we were talking about that give us ideas or that help us react, we wouldn't be able to live our life.
Right.
But we don't learn that these power struggles are a choice. Mm-hmm. Although they're needed, right? They're a choice because there's learning lessons in the power struggles. And I don't believe that we are demonstrating as a society that we've learned our lessons.
So I feel like the biggest issue, the way that I see, is not, doesn't have anything to do with like a social standpoint or utopia. It has everything to do with what our relationship with ourselves is, and what we actually believe is actually possible.
Yes.
I mean, look at flight. At one point, that was believed to not be possible. Right. I feel like the history that we get to see that's easily accessible is more of like a purposeful narrative of you're gonna fight.
Right.
You're gonna have a fight. You have to fight. And then there's the comparison of the animal kingdom, and well, there's fighting in there, like dog eat dog kind of thing. But here's
it was designed, right?
Well, right,
for there to be predators and prey,
exactly.
And that's the cycle of life.
Right, right. I feel like at the human level, I feel like, because I mean, obviously you don't see a cat driving a car or like going to the moon or anything like that, right? I feel like the fact that we have this absolutely incredible central nervous system, this incredible brain that is capable of seeing life in literally any way it wants to, any way. Animals aren't really like that's not something that's innately part of it.
No,
they're driven by an instinct.
They're driven by the amygdala, the instinctive part.
Survive.
That's all they're.
Exactly.
That's what they're programmed to do.
Now we have that layer of our brain, but it just keeps going up higher and higher, right?
But that's what a lot of times takes us into being reactive and creates negative consequences.
Exactly, and it's an unconsciousness.
Oh yeah.
It's an unconsciousness of like what we actually are.
Right.
Not who, but what we actually are. Because honestly, like people tell me all the time, like, hey, you need to remember names better. But I'm like, I don't know.
You know what? Names, I have the same problem.
Names don't. I don't care about names because
they're labels.
Exactly. I'm about the energy.
And eyes.
Exactly.
Eyes are the gateway to the soul. I remember eyes and I remember faces.
Yeah.
When I was at the hospital, I never knew anyone's name. But I knew them. I didn't know their name, but I knew them. I knew if their kid was sick. I knew, what department they worked in. I knew what our last interaction was.
Right.
I knew it in my heart, but to me, labels are limiting.
Exactly.
And are they needed sometimes? Sure. But it goes back to where I see that there's a lot of provoked suffering, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is through labels. Because like my son, who's dyslexic, they told me he'd never read. They told me he'd never be able to be part of a normal school. All these things. And I never
What is normal?
Accepted that. Exactly. I never accepted that, and I never saw him as disabled. I laugh at that. I'm like, what does that mean? Same thing, what you were bringing up, my belief, I don't have any scientific proof. I just have the experiences that I've had and conversations I've had with neurologists about autism. I believe that they are more evolved souls than you and I are. And the reason is because they're fully accessing parts of their brains that we've yet to develop the ability to be.
Absolutely.
And with that comes detachment from social norms. And to me that's so beautiful, like I worked with a lot of kids that were autistic, and honestly it was easy, it was profound, it was deep, and there's an intelligence there that I really truly believe we need to continue to study.
Well, absolutely. It's so all of the intelligence in the world, all the smartest people in the world, it doesn't mean a bit to me to have all of that information and know all this stuff if you're not deeply aligned with what you are, with unconditional love,
right.
the very experience that you first had,
right.
like when you were like the very first thing. Whoa, this is a big world. Oh my gosh,
right.
that kind of thing. Even if your birth was in turmoil, still you look at a baby. What are you gonna see? You're gonna see beauty. You're gonna see that like wow, clean slate.
Right.
Even in a crazy situation.
Right.
So like, it's all about connecting all of the information that we're able to understand and perceive to a true alignment with self. Because then all that information turns into wisdom.
Right.
Right. And now it's
power.
Exactly.
Wisdom and power. And there's power in, and I always say this to people that are struggling, especially chronic patients that I work with, that there's this beauty in their pain. And it's
absolutely.
because they're having to, and I've had a lot of chronic pain issues and health issues, and that's one of the reasons I believe that although my body isn't strong per se, like I can't lift heavy weight or do crazy things, well, if I tried. My trainer would say if I really applied myself, right, I could. But I feel the strongest in my soul because of those experiences. Right. And when things get hard for me, I pull out that ability that I had to overcome those extremely hard, painful experiences and use that as my power to get through the current situation. Right. So if I hadn't have had that and used it as wisdom, right, that's the ability to align within yourself. Exactly. And not get stuck, because something that I see all too often is people getting stuck in labels. For example, a doctor says to somebody, you have chronic pain. Well, then that becomes that person.
Right.
The essence of the person is lost, and then the person becomes chronic pain. Yep. And everything they do is dictated by that label or that diagnosis. Yep. Same thing could have happened with my son. You're dyslexic. Oh, well, you never need to read. Right. Or you're not capable. What if I had said that to my son? You're not capable of reading. Don't worry about it. You're not capable of reading. Don't worry about it. And now he is at above his grade level of reading, right? And my message to him was always, your brain is wired how it's wired. That's who you are. And we take pride in that, and we use that, and we'll use your weaknesses to help your strengths, and we'll use your strengths to uplift your weaknesses. I showed him a brain, like a real brain. I showed him how dyslexic brain's energy fires. And I showed him how some of the other people's, but this isn't right, and this isn't wrong, and this isn't wrong, and this isn't right.
And so I've studied like a lot in like neuroplasticity and the ability that the brain has to literally physically change itself.
And that's what the therapies are for kids with dyslexia. Yeah. That's exactly what they are. It's a rewiring. So it's a training.
Right. So my extrapolation from the studies of that and then the deep experiences that I've had personally and those connections that I've had with people that I've worked with is that ability, that understanding that people that have lost half of their brain now can do more than they did before because their brain rewrote itself,
Well, and it's also because I worked with patients like that their parents were told like, oh, they're brain dead.
Right.
I can think of one patient that I think I worked with him for 7 or 8 months. It was wow. He couldn't speak. Yeah. And we ended up doing a learning video after the 8 months because I saw him on a Friday. He couldn't speak, couldn't move. Yeah. The only thing he could do was move his head. He'd been he was a football player, like star football player. And when I first met him, he looked like a skeleton. He could barely move his head. He was in the rehab department. Parents had basically been told, you better get used to this. This is your new life. I had some deep discussions with Mom about, don't let a diagnosis define, right. Like she always says, I just don't feel like this is, it's not right. It's not right. You hear Mom saying that. Worked with her a lot. Saw him on a Friday, always looked him in the eye, always looked him in the eye, always spoke to him as my patient, even though he couldn't talk, touched, he would squeeze my hand. Right. Lots of communication, even though we couldn't verbally communicate. Right. There was always communication. Came in on a Monday. This is after like 4 months of seeing the patient and the patient not being able to talk, not being able to move. Came in on a Monday. And I remember walking in and saying, hey, what's going on? And he turned his head and he was like, well, hello. And I was like, I just felt to my knees, and I was like, yes,
Yeah,
this is it,
yeah.
right? This is it. And the video that we ended up making for training is that he said, I was the only caretaker that talked to him as if he were still a human.
Right.
And took the time to look him in the eye and have conversations with him, even
That's
though he
beautiful.
couldn't respond.
Yeah.
And he thanked me for that. And he explained to me how he had felt trapped in his body, but that wasn't the hardest part of his experience. The hardest part of his experience was feeling dismissed as a person, because he couldn't access, right, the way that people wanted him to access information.
Right.
And I think that's a big part of not only power struggles, but where we tend to get lost, right, in our spirits especially, is when we're just told this is the way it is,
right,
and you're wrong for questioning,
right,
or you're wrong for not fitting in this box, especially
exactly.
in education. I don't know how you feel. Do you have kids?
I have 6.
What?
Yeah.
How old are they?
So it starts with 15, 12, 8, 7, 3, or 5. There we go.
Okay, so you can definitely relate to this. I want to hear your perspective from the lens of teaching children how to be humans, right? Are your kids in public school,
Yes.
homeschooled, public school?
Yeah, public school, and then in different public schools, so yeah.
Okay. So you have high school, middle, elementary, pre. Okay, so you have everything.
Yeah,
okay.
the whole gamut.
Okay, so give it to me before we go on break. Like, what is your opinion of the educational system from the perspective of allowing people to access their full potential?
So I feel like it's absolutely broken, and that's something that, like, we all know. It's created to create employees, and it's very simple to see that. So for me, as a parent with kids that are in public school, for me it's very important to understand the way that they feel about a social issue, like, oh my God, this boy said this, or
peer pressure,
yeah, or that kind of thing. But it's very important for me to understand where they are, and like, yeah, I got you. But then ask them, do you enjoy this? Do you enjoy this feeling? Because this is not the way you have to feel. This is, like, whatever they do, say, or be, whatever, that does not ever have to be a part of your existence.
Right.
Doesn't ever have to be a part of your inside. So you can walk around all of it. You can be called names. You can be, sit alone at lunch. You can do all of that stuff. And you can choose to absolutely love your life. So that's what it's really important for me. So, like, all the issues that school has and all that good stuff, I stopped trying to, like, fight it a long time ago. I started, you know what? I'm gonna infiltrate it. You know, I'm gonna send my little ninjas in there that are aligning with themselves, that are practicing alignment with themselves, and I'm gonna let that energy spread.
But have you found that sometimes intimidates teachers?
Oh, 100%.
Or there's a clash there because
there is.
the child that's empowered at times isn't willing to just bow their head and be quiet.
Well, see, so it's not rebellion.
No. But it can be perceived as rebellion.
Absolutely.
And I'll give you a scenario, like a teacher, because I used to work in groups too of kids, like a teacher that has 25 children, right, and needs to move through the lesson, and there's that super bright kid that's usually the empowered kid that's like, I have questions.
Right.
And my questions matter.
Absolutely. And well, so like the way that I approach that with my especially my 12-year-olds, my youngest 12-year-old. So he's a very, very, outspoken, very loud personality, that kind of thing. But also, again, practice is alignment with himself. So he's run into that a lot. He's had a lot of teachers that are like, they clash, and they clash from the start because he's outspoken, because he asks questions. But I always encourage him to always seek to find the most efficient way to express the truest of you, which is unconditional love. Always seek to find the truest way to express what you're asking, how you're asking it, so that the energy is the only thing that you're focused on, not
right.
Not
so there's a flow. It's
Exactly.
not like it's not a crash.
Right.
You're finding a way to make it non-combative.
Exactly. In a way that has nothing to do with the other person's feelings.
Right.
In a way that has everything and only to do with how would you rather express this?
Right.
How do you want to feel about expressing this?
Right.
Do you want to be like, bitch, what? You know, like, do you want to be like that? Is that the way you want to feel about it?
Sometimes I do.
Well, I know, exactly. And
But
in those situations,
it's hard, right? It's hard to.
But in those situations, you have to ask yourself, do I really want to feel like? Do I really enjoy this feeling?
No. Yeah. Great point.
Oh,
Great
shit.
point. Yeah, I love it. I know.
Dang.
We're on the flow. We need to do this more often.
Absolutely.
Wow, you have 6 kids.
Yes, 6 kids. So between my wife and I, we both have 3, so we're a Brady bunch.
Okay.
Like my oldest is 12, and her middle is 12. Then her oldest is 16, her youngest is 5, and then I actually messed that up. He just had a birthday, so it's 9, 7, and 5. So yeah, sometimes
It's a lot of activity in your house, but so beautiful.
Well, you know what's funny is like it works out so perfectly balanced, and it's so perfectly aligned with exactly the life that I love, you know, because we have exes and that kind of thing, and there's this perfect mixture of, you know, schedules. So they come over and then they go back over there. If we're here, they come back over there. So, you know, it works with school schedules, all that good stuff, for the most part.
Yeah.
What
does your wife do?
So my wife, she's at H&R Block right now. She actually is developing a like sexual coaching program.
Oh, cool.
So her passion, she has. Hey there.
Hi.
Hey girl, how you doing? Give me a second.
Hi.
That was so good. That is so true that our schools are raising
Sheep.
our kids to be employees.
Oh, yeah.
Little robots.
Right?
And not only that, that's where I'm going to go next about critical thinking. That's a threat to teachers. Not all teachers.
Yeah,
like, my
exactly.
child's at a private school
It's-
because when I toured my elementary school, which is walking distance from my house,
Yeah.
the principal, so my friend was the head of the PTA, so she took me on the tour, introduced me to the principal. And the principal, and I said, oh yeah, my son has dyslexia, you know, I'm concerned about the class sizes here. It's the second best, supposedly, school in Fort Worth. And the principal said, you know, you look like you have the means. Your child's going to drown here. You should probably think about private school. And I was like, and you're the head of this school? Peace out. Like,
Right.
that's all I need to know.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, my
like, you've
goodness.
already put him.
Well,
Wow.
what great honesty right there, though. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
for a school director to say,
Well, that's when I told
And-
my husband, I was like, this is not an option. He's like, why? I was like, this is what this. People speak the truth.
yeah,
Absolutely.
We just don't listen.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And so for me, like my response.
right before you start up again,
Yeah.
really quick, just pull your mic down just a little bit. Mic 1. Yeah.
Okay, there
Just
we
a
go.
little bit.
So my first response is, are we going back on?
No, we have
No.
time.
Okay. My response is, okay, cool. Well, this is the school that we're gonna go to. Watch my son. Watch him thrive.
Yeah.
Watch him.
He,
You know.
yeah.
Just because like my whole entire like mission every day is to point out limiting beliefs. Point out the like ridiculousness.
That's my
of
double-edged
limiting.
sword. I
you know?
always say that, like, I shine light on things that make people uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
But I've learned to embrace that that's my gift in life.
Right.
You know, like, that's, so I had some pretty intense run-ins with the hospital where they threatened me and I had to get a lawyer because, when they shut down schools, I went and fought for homeless kids and
Yeah.
kids under CPS, and I was like,
That's awesome.
you're killing kids
Yeah.
because that's their safe place.
Right.
And COVID is not a threat to children.
Exactly.
I'm working in the children's
Yeah.
hospital.
Right. That
And
is
what you're doing is
beautiful.
killing children, and we're hiding these statistics. And I went in front of Judge Whitley and the mayor of Fort Worth, and like it was me and 4 friends of mine, and we sued.
Wow.
We went hard, and I had threats at my house, and I had like a whole bunch of things, but I became at that point very private and
Yeah,
like to
yeah.
myself to like a warrior, you know, and that's when I was like, fine. That's the only time I've been on social media.
So
And then now.
you know, I want to talk about that because like so it's like that's the same reason why like I mean I carry a piece everywhere I go. but I'm unconditionally loving everywhere I go.
Oh, me too.
You know?
Yeah.
So
I always say, people think I'm a bitch, but I'm the most loving person. Like, it's just, strong energy is intimidating.
it is. It is.
Intimidating.
To the ego.
Right. Right.
I like this music.
Okay, I can't believe that we're already on the second half of the show.
I know, right?
Time flies when you're having fun, right? It's all about perspective.
Absolutely. You're connecting with energy.
Right.
That's
last week when I was so sad about having to put our beloved pet down, it felt like my show took forever. It was a good show, but my energy was, I was grieving, so it just felt like it was moving so slow.
Yeah.
And then now, same show.
Yeah, exactly.
Feels like it's just moving too fast. There's so much to cover, but you're right. We ended the last segment. Right, it does flow. We ended the last segment talking about our kids and school systems, because we started the show talking about how these constructs of how we view power and the power struggles that we have within ourselves and then with our surroundings start when we're kids.
Right.
And part of that, which for me, I was telling Greg on the break, I am a big advocate. Never thought I would be doing advocate work ever. I've always been a very private person. But
when you feel it, you move.
Well, right. And when you've worked with children and seen how vulnerable they are to the influences around them and how vulnerable they are to people saying things to them and them carrying that as a label within themselves. And I have, one thing that I've learned in my life is that with choice, which is something that a lot of us aren't taught, right? What you and I have been discussing, like, you can choose if a person calls you ugly to think you're ugly,
right?
Or to say, well, that's their perception, and they're probably saying that to me because they're projecting their insecurity.
Yeah, I was about to say that it's a manifestation
you can
of
choose,
them,
right? And you can choose, but these are learned things. So those children that aren't receiving these tools, which are many of them, and aren't being taught how to be a human, which is why I wanted to call my show How to Be a Human, because I don't think we are teaching kids how to be a human. I think in schools we're...
That's funny you should say.
Right? Like the focus in our learning systems, which are completely broken, we've seen that. That's a good thing out of all this COVID chaos, is that we see that our health system is completely shattered and imploding on us. And our educational system is just as bad, if not worse, because we don't have enough workforce prepared to take on the needs of the world.
Right.
And we're seeing that, right? We're seeing that with millennials. We're seeing that with... And it's not because they're not good people. It's because we are so shattered in our thinking. We're so shattered in our wanting to fit things into boxes. And these new generations are saying, hey, I'm a circle.
Exactly.
And so one of the reasons why
funny.
I wanted to do this show on power struggles is because I work with companies and corporations and give trainings to corporate settings, and I hear a lot of this great resignation and the great reset and all of these things, and I view it as the power shifting from the organization and the corporate to the employees.
Right.
And that is exactly what we were talking about in schools, right?
Yeah.
Their goal is to teach people to be quiet and sit and do what they're told. And the world is shifting.
Absolutely.
And our needs are shifting as we've progressed as humans and become more advanced in every aspect of our life.
Living more as the being behind the human.
Yes, yes. And I think we don't know how to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's the root of why these shifts are so hard, because we haven't learned how to be. We've learned to be doings. We've learned to be human doings. But we don't need, you see all these people that are upset because technology is replacing humans. And I don't think that's necessarily bad.
Yeah.
The problem is that then we don't know what to do with all these humans that need something to do.
Well, it's so beautiful that we're talking about this topic, because it's like I'm experiencing this in my life, So what's beautiful is that the turmoil that we're all like we're experiencing in one manner or another, like every shift, every change, has a period where it's not quite there yet, but it's still not where it was.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Exactly.
It's the emptiness.
Our brains do it every morning. Every morning when we wake up, and before our brains switch from producing melatonin to serotonin, there's a little space there in shifting chemicals.
Right.
So this is that part where we can start a new program.
Right.
We can create a new focus.
Right.
In this turmoil, this is when I feel like this is the most badass part of life, and I'm so glad that I live right now, and I feel like I'm here to do that. To hey, let's use this as a tool to create something that we actually like. Nobody really likes to be stressed out all the time. Nobody really likes to go to a job that they really don't like.
But let's pause right there.
Go ahead.
I have seen people that don't know any better.
Right.
And to even think about another alternative, even, I talked about having using TikTok as a way to understand what's happening in the world.
Right.
Every other video are these videos of people talking about hating their jobs. They don't want to go in there.
Yeah.
They want to scream at everybody,
right?
Which is, it's funny to watch. They're funny videos, but there's truth in that. And the truth is that they don't know, right? That they have the choice, to say, I quit.
Right. And
to know that they're going to be okay.
So this is actually something that's my partner and best friend and I specifically work on. We specifically help coaches or people that want to become coaches. So it's the limiting belief of well, I can never do anything other than this. I'm stuck here, or I have to make this much to get to here. There's all plethora of different ways that manifests, right? Here's the cool thing about it, though. What we were just talking about earlier about like the energy transfer, like sharing energy rather than words. Sharing life, the just how you actually live life every single day, whether you're in the shower or you're in front of 10,000 people, living life, truth, and an unconditional love of self. That goes beyond all that. All those limiting beliefs. And honestly, the people that are maybe even here in this show right now that maybe feel some type of way about it. Maybe they feel some kind of thing, right, like that. Then, okay, well, they're just not listening. That's okay. I love you too.
Or there's resistance because, and I talk to people a lot when I'm working with them too. It is scarier to try something new than to stay where you are, even if where you are isn't good for you, or it's hurting you, or it's unhealthy. That's why people stay in toxic relationships. That's why. With domestic abuse, it's very difficult to leave the perperpetrator because it's scary, and they've brainwashed you to feel like you can't make it without them.
Right, that you need them.
Right.
Yeah, I literally lived it.
Right.
On both sides, that's this my wife that I have now is my second one, so, and there's a reason why I was divorced. So, it's a brainwashing. You're right.
It is a brainwashing.
But again, it's energy that changes the brainwashing.
It's you giving your power to something outside of you. And that's a really important lesson because it happens. I think everything we do from the moment we get up till the moment we go to bed is an exchange of energy. And in that, you're either contributing to your energetic bank account or taking out from your energetic bank account. And that is that power play of your soul.
Right.
And I think that there's so many instances throughout our day, even on a Sunday where you're at home chilling and not much is going on, where you can give your power away. And then have debits happen from your energy bank account. And as I said in the last show, scientists have studied this. And for every negative thought or negative feeling, you're debited $5 out of your energy bank account, and for every positive one. So it's really, really important to gauge those power plays, and not in a way where you're over somebody or you have power over somebody, but where you are maintaining your sense of power within you and not forgetting that you have the choice. Because to me, that's the magic of this alternative way of thinking, right? Versus traditional psychology, where it's like, let's talk about it.
Right.
And stir the pot.
Exactly.
And stir it again. And stir it more.
Yeah.
And let's keep stirring it.
Right. You know, so I feel like the like energetic bank account thing, you know, like for me, because I felt the intensity and the pressure of like, oh my gosh, you know, like I gotta stop thinking this, I gotta stop thinking this, I gotta stop thinking this. You know, I felt that, and by simply thinking of I need to stop thinking, that makes you think of it more. You know, so, you know, like how do you stop thinking thoughts? You know, well, the way you stop thinking, or the way that I found to stop thinking thoughts, and how I've helped other people do, is find the emotion, find the feeling
that you want to feel.
You know, like exactly. You know, identify the feeling, so that the thought. You know, I mean, at one point in my life, I was at a very suicidal point, and I literally had said, I'm done. Literally visualized, you know, myself dead, and all of my family walking in and seeing me dead, and I was like, okay, I'm good with that, and literally was at that point. So, from there, seeing that the power of what I put in my head, that I was at the point where that was okay, and it was obviously interrupted, but that's powerful.
Right.
That there was nobody in my room. There was nobody around.
You with you.
That was exactly. Mm-hmm. So if that's how powerful that, you know, my mind can be, you know, and this is after a lot of hard lessons after that, you know, but still, my mind can make that such a powerful reality. Then can't my mind make a powerful, awesome reality? Mm-hmm. You know, can't I choose to see every single thing that I experience through unconditional love rather than what I'm supposed to feel about this? Mm-hmm. You know, I feel like we get caught up in those labels that you talk about, mm-hmm. and we say, well, if this happens, I have to feel this way. If this happens, I have to feel this way. When, you know, the truth is, wait, you can feel it whatever way you want about it.
Yeah, like when we put my dog down last week, my young child was in a lot of pain. He was very sad. A couple hours went by because he was there when we put him down, and he goes, "Mom, I kind of want to play," and I was like, "So play." And he was like, "But we're supposed to be sad," and I was like, "Yes, we are." But, you know, and I sat with him and explained this concept of, just because we're grieving doesn't mean that we can't feel good inside ourselves, or that we can't play, or that we can't laugh. Like,
but then again, like, if he's done grieving, like his grieving might have been less fast, and he's like, oh, okay, cool, and he's good, and so now, like, that's the whole thing, is like there's no timestamp on anything. It literally, you know, like for me with death, you know, losing somebody close to me that's happened a lot in my life, you know. Whether it's family or you know, friends that are family, that kind of thing, through motorcycles and all that good stuff. So the thing about it for me is I guess from that experience of like, I'm done, and that emptiness and that like nothingness, I guess I got a reassurance from that. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, at that point, it's literally whatever you want it to
exactly
be. There's nothing.
Right.
You don't feel anything.
Mm-hmm.
Either like it's like a floating. You can create whatever you want. Mm-hmm. You know, now you stumbled into the magical forest of whatever you think it is.
Right.
You know, so I'm like, okay, so this person died, or this dog died. Like we had a dog that we freaking awesome dog. He got hit, and he you know, hit and run. We don't know who hit him, and he just like crawled over to the side of the road and died. And it was, I have a picture of it on my phone actually, you know, because it was beautiful the way he laid. Mm-hmm. And I feel like my detachment with death is bad helped me to see that immediately. Mm-hmm. Not like after the fact, but immediately when I looked at his dead body, I was like, oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, there's
and I
peace.
saw, and
there's
I kind of like I saw it, like I saw it all happen, you know, because I saw kind of where he went, and I saw him laid down and how he put his head, and I was like, that's absolutely beautiful. And then, you know, I drug his body over and got rid of it, you know,
Yeah.
like it's or did what I needed to do with it, you know, that kind of thing. So it's like, okay, this is still a consciousness, because there's organisms right now that are still going,
Yeah, I
still alive.
when I've experienced what I thought about as you were describing that is the word surrender.
Yeah, I love that word.
Because
I
we
love that.
spend, I feel like, most of our life resisting surrender.
Yeah, exactly.
Like somebody was asking me the other day, like, why do people that are juju, you know, always say, let it go? They're like, what the hell does that mean? Let it go. How do you let it go?
I sing that to my kids. Let it go.
Right.
Let it go.
Right. And I'm like, yeah, you know, it is an abstract concept, you know, let it go. But that brings me back to this place of like, we talked about we're wired to fight. So I think our instinct, that reactivity that we're programmed to have,
Absolutely.
is for us to fight. It's
Right.
for us to not want to surrender. And
Yeah.
I know that that's one of the things that has allowed me to feel less anxious, because I've struggled with anxiety my whole life, is that I still remember when I finally learned to meditate. Because at first, when you're trying to meditate, you fall asleep, you're distracted,
Right.
it takes a while, right? I remember that pure feeling of light and bliss and complete surrender to what was happening to me and at me, just that feeling of purity that we talked about when you look at a child. And it's that surrender that in the hardest times of my life has allowed me to not go into that deep dark hole of
Right.
depression or wanting to give up.
Right.
Because I've had times like that too, where, you know, I was told I had cancer, I had, you know, I was paralyzed,
Wow.
I had to make decisions in my will, you know, about how I wanted a certain surgery to go, and if things went wrong, what I wanted, and
Wow.
my
Yeah.
family didn't want to accept them. But I knew, like, if this doesn't work, I
Yeah.
don't want to live.
Right. You have me plugging me in on the rest of my life.
No.
Nope.
And I had to really think about that. And,
Yeah.
and it also has made me have a lot of peace with death and a lot of honoring of that.
Absolutely.
Because I've also seen many, many instances where people know that their physical body can no longer hold their soul,
Right.
and they don't want to do this. They're done.
Yeah.
And we have to honor and respect that.
Right.
And I truly feel that on a soul level, on a spiritual level, animals sometimes choose. And I don't know the circumstances behind your dog's death, but what I have found, and talking to people that work with animals on a spiritual level, I do believe that animals have the ability to choose to go, to break patterns, to teach us lessons, to create these clashes of energy where we have to crumble, and it helps the family dynamic learn a lesson or have to stop in a way where things shift and change.
Absolutely. You know, it's like the subconscious connectivity that we all share with literally everything. You know, so that manifestation of what you actually want, you actually need. You know, the exact way that you need to feel to start that process of changing the way that your brain is made up. You know, like we talked about earlier, the literal physical construction of your brain. Sometimes you actually need, and you really actually want that happening. And that's the same reason why you're able to look back and say, wow, that I'm really gracious for this traumatic thing that I went through, you know. Because again, like, if we all agree that we're more than the body we live in, you know, if we can agree on that, and we can agree that there's energy transfer between everything, and everything at the core of is energy, then we can agree that we can absolutely see what we've always wanted. We can see that we've been in the on the helm the whole entire time.
Right.
We've been in control the whole
Right.
entire time.
Right.
You know, that traumatic thing that hit out of nowhere, like the truest of you, the energy, that unconditional love that we talked about earlier, that you are first brand new to being human.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that right there, like, hey, I want you to wake up.
Right.
You know, like,
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
hey, feel,
Exactly.
feel. You know, like I want you to feel.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
One of the things that I saw a lot when working with teenagers, especially like juniors and seniors, I would see them a lot for like terrible migraines or
Mhm.
terrible GI issues. And what I always found was this clash of, like, I found this pattern of teenagers that had never had to struggle and were being faced with like applying to college and getting rejected
Mhm.
or getting accepted or having to tackle learning to live on their own and independence. And I found that when there's no struggle, we don't grow. We lack the
100%.
functionality and the life skills that we need to have that power,
100%.
to have that ability to overcome obstacles, to resolve problems. And I feel like it's really important that we allow our children to have pain, that we show them that obstacles and suffering are an important part of being a human.
Right.
And what we've seen a lot, what I've heard from teachers, especially teachers that have been teaching for like 30, 40 years, is that they've seen this big shift. And the biggest difference that they've been able to know and that research shows is that these new generations are not able to self-regulate themselves. Right. They're being coddled, and there's
Yeah.
a difference between nurturing and coddling.
Right.
Because coddling is a result of codependence.
Absolutely.
And we're seeing a lot of codependence in our culture.
Right.
And codependence is toxic because it doesn't allow individuals to be who they are,
right?
To be in their circle or their box or their triangle or you know whatever
Exactly.
or whoever they are, and that leads me back to some of the lacks in the educational system.
Yeah, I was actually just about to bring it back. Yeah, absolutely.
And I also feel like it doesn't promote or we're not promoting in education and in medicine, which I think are the two biggest issues that we all need to work together constructively and collaboratively, without judgment, without blame, to help our society. But I think the two main issues are that individualized care and individualized education is the only way to help individuals.
Right.
Generalize things, you know, what works for your kid probably doesn't work for mine.
Right.
So forcing them into these boxes or forcing them into these treatments that everybody's different. Yeah, everybody's genetic makeup is different. Everybody's physical history is different. Everybody's habits are different. Everybody's culture, beliefs, even kids in the same home can perceive situations differently.
See, I feel like I've stumbled upon the mass similarity for everybody, no matter where you're from or anything. Is like again, like we were talking about, like the energy, the unconditionally loving yourself, and then doing that. It seems to open up all the doors for you.
Right.
It literally. I mean, you can understand it by understanding like law of attraction. You made a comment earlier about we're all magical wands running around. We're not. It's not that we're not using those magical wands. We're actually using them. They're on all the time. You're just creating something maybe you don't want.
Right. But you don't see it, right?
Yeah, right.
You're not seeing, like, I always show pictures to kids.
Exactly.
What does anger look like? Because when they can see it, it's tangible to them. You don't see it. If I had walked up to you today when you walked in and been like, hi. Right? Like,
what's
that's
up?
that.
Meh.
That would be it. You know what I mean? Like, that would have been the end of that.
Absolutely.
Versus, I don't even know how we greeted one another, but we were both open, is my point. We both projected a willingness to communicate and
personal
unite.
Choice.
Yes.
I chose before I got into my car, this morning when I woke up, I chose to feel in a certain way. and you did the same. And when we met, boom, there it is. You know,
Well, I
like,
didn't wake up. I was like, oh, I have to go to my son's school event this morning. I can't just take him to school in my pajamas with my hair all crazy.
You should do that. You know, you should absolutely do that. Since it's like a resistance, you should just do it. You know, walk in there, be like, yeah, I just woke up. So here's my kid. I love him so much. I love you. And there's nothing you can do about it. And walk out. Like,
Right.
mic drop that thing.
I remember when my older son was young, and I took this course called Love and Logic, which is a great parenting course. But one of the things that they taught us in that course, you know, for kids that are resistant to getting ready in the morning, they were like, you know, it's very common for kids not to get fully dressed. Right. And if you've told them 3 or 4 times to do it and they don't do it, just put them in the car and drop them off at school. Because
Yeah.
they will understand when they show up without socks or shoes or whatever. And I did it. I did it with my older son once, and he went to
That's
school
hilarious.
without shoes, and you know what? He never did it again.
I've done that with some of my kids, especially my youngest son. Because he likes to, well, I don't want to wear shoes. Or
Right.
just forget them.
Yeah.
So he's been to school a couple times. Like, you put them on.
Right.
Just, I mean, go for it.
Right, and it's the power of choice, right?
Exactly.
You know what you need to do.
I just can't get his face out of my head. Like,
Yeah.
for real, really, Dad? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, but even parenting, right? Like,
yeah.
I have a lot of friends that reach out to me and are like, you know, very distraught about something their child did at school or some misbehavior. And the way that I've tried to view parenting is an adventure.
100%.
like an adventure of, like, how can we make this fun?
Exactly. Every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I always threaten my kids. I'm like, you can keep doing that, but I'll show up at school and embarrass you.
Yeah. See, I always like when I purposely embarrass my kid, especially my oldest one. I do it and I ask him, like, why are you embarrassed?
Right.
And why? What does it feel like?
Right.
Do you enjoy this?
Mhm.
If you don't enjoy it, then why do you allow it?
Right.
And I always do that. And he's like, Dad, serious. Oh my God. And but what happens is he thinks about it,
Mhm.
and then we end up having these absolutely deep conversations later.
Right.
You know that are about what we're talking about right now.
And I have them with my
You know,
kids too.
On the highest level, and I'm just like, what? That's good shit. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't think about, you know,
I know.
it's amazing. So it's literally like operating in a way that is really rooted in unconditional love. Like I can't say it any simpler. It's I simply unconditionally love me and choose to live in exactly the way that I want and the way that I feel good about.
But you know, that's so threatening to others.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And
Because you can't be controlled with that way.
exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
you're not
that power. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But then at this point, like on the other side of it, it's absolutely freeing.
Oh, I know.
And
I know.
you see, like, oh my God, wait a minute. If there were more people that are feeling this way, because I know people want to feel this way. If there were more people feeling this way, then just the energy alone,
Would change.
like, it changes everything.
Oh, I agree.
Changes everything.
I had people that are like, I want what you have. What do you? And I'm like, this isn't something you can buy. You don't take a class. Like, this is an evolution of suffering
Yup.
that turns into resilience that
Yup.
then shows up in the world as, it might show up as I don't give a fuck.
Right.
But
right.
it's not that I don't. I care deeply, and I am moved by helping others.
But I'm
It's
just not
more
gonna feel the way
about,
I don't want to feel.
or put my energy, you know, into things that, like, my husband's always like, they're gonna think you're being rude, and I'm like, why?
Okay.
Is it better to put fake stuff out, like
Exactly.
niceties out that I don't
Exactly.
mean?
Live your truest self. Live your truest self.
All right, we're back, and this has been, boy, what a great show. I'm so excited that our paths crossed.
Oh, absolutely. I'm absolutely excited about what's coming next.
Yeah. So I'm going to start this segment with a quote because it summarizes what Greg and I talked about while we were on break. And it's, we don't value our inner attunement as much as we value what we attain from outside of us.
Ooh, yes.
And we were talking about how freeing it is to be empowered within yourself to say, I don't want to do this, or I want to do this, or I don't want to talk to them, or I want to talk to them. Or I was joking about, I woke up this morning and the first thing I thought was not, oh, what a beautiful day. It was, oh, it's cold outside. My body, I have some immune stuff, so my joints really hurt when it's cold.
Yeah.
And it really puts me down. So I was like, oh, I don't want to, brush my hair or get dressed. And he's like, just take your kid in your bathrobe to school. And but I have found myself, I'm turning 40 in a couple of months, and I have found this to be the best time of my life. Now, with the most responsibilities,
right.
with the least control, because when you have a teenager, you know that the wheels fall off. Like, you've either done it,
yeah.
right? You've either given them what they need, or you're going to be working really hard to try and reroute and probably talking to a wall. So my older son luckily was born. He was born already with a self-guidance GPS. He's been a blessing in my life. He's been an anchor in my life. And so he is not one of those teenagers, thank God, but it's still hard for me to watch him fail, or to watch him try something and not get it, or to watch him be rejected, or to watch those heartaches.
Absolutely.
It's still painful, and there's no control. When you have teenagers, there's no control. They're out there experiencing life,
as they should be.
As they should be. And
exactly.
that's our job, right?
Right.
To hopefully give him the wings and teach him how to fly, and then push him out of the nest, and watch him come back as they need, but not, we talked about codependency, not create that codependency that they need us, because ultimately I think one of the hardest lessons for me has been to realize that if I don't do it for myself, first of all, it's nobody else's responsibility.
Right.
Like, my husband is not responsible for my happiness. He's not responsible for me having it together, and I'm not responsible for him.
Yeah, exactly.
And neither are my children,
right.
Or my family, or my friends. Now, we can support one another, and we can be loving towards one another, but it all starts with our relationship with ourselves,
100%.
like you said, and I'm big about that. But that's scary for people.
Yeah.
Because it's
Isn't
a lot
crazy?
of responsibility. Well, it's so much responsibility because everybody wants to blame somebody for what happens to them or what's not going right. I mean, look at the news, right? We're all blaming Fauci or the government or Trump or Biden. Like, they can't even decide anymore. Like, it's the exact same things, right? They're the exact same stories.
Exactly.
With the same themes, different protagonists.
Exactly.
It's just the ever evolving. It's like they have one mock story written out and they just change the names.
No, that's for real.
Right?
For real. It's funny that you say that, because I mean, I feel like there's so many conspiracy movies. And movies about like the Hunger Games and that kind of thing.
We're living a sci-fi movie.
I literally,
that's for sure.
We're in that right now.
Yes, we are living a sci-fi movie.
And the beautiful thing about it is like for like kids and for yourself and all that good stuff like that like always aligning with self, like all that, like I call it, it's like beautiful selfishness. That's what it boils down to.
It's self-care.
Exactly. Well, it's even deeper than that, because when you are constantly thinking about yourself, you're constantly thinking about yourself above everything else, then you know exactly, hey, how do I want to feel about this? You're constantly like, oh, I really like this feeling. You're constantly in like awareness of the way you feel. Mm-hmm. So then you can choose to feel in the way that you want to feel.
Right.
So therefore, all the things that you want, all the endeavors that you want to, like, that maybe at one point you wanted to control, you start seeing that, like, you are directly influencing it.
Oh, absolutely. And you see things like, I remember when I first really, truly started coming into alignment with myself, through a lot of work, like we talked about, a lot of obstacles, but I remember being in public and random people coming up to me and like, just like telling me they're lewd, and I've never met them before, and I'm like, and now I'm just used to it. But people, friends of mine, or even my husband or my children, I was like, Mom, you're like a magnet. And I'm like, people that are suffering perceive that we can hold them up, right? They're drawn to that, so exactly. They're like, you're safe. Like, that's what I think, and so I'm never surprised. I'm never surprised at what I hear, like in line at the grocery store, or
exactly,
or at the gas station, or even little children. They always want to come sit in my lap, and people are like, "My kid doesn't know you. I'm so sorry." I'm like, "No, that's because I'm putting out love." Like, and I actually want to hug them.
Right, exactly.
But we've made hugging and touching and that humaneness weird.
Right. We've made it like taboo.
Yeah. Like I come from a culture where we kiss.
Yeah.
Even strangers.
Right.
Right. Like we kiss strangers, and here that would be considered sexual harassment. Right?
No, for real.
Right. Like that would be considered like I'm trying to assault somebody. But in other cultures, it's how you greet.
Exactly.
Humans.
It's natural.
It's natural.
It's as natural as like I mean. Like, crazy example, but a dog sniffing another dog's butt.
Yeah.
It's as natural as that.
Or dogs sniffing human butts, because they do that. My dogs do that to strangers. Yeah. It's the scent, right?
Right.
No, but yeah. So I think that we're all on this journey called life, right? Which is a roller coaster, is how I describe it. But on top of that, we don't have a manual.
Right.
Which is why I wanted the show to be called How to Be a Human. Because wouldn't you have liked a manual?
Well, actually, honestly,
not a manual that tells you how to do things, but a manual where, like, how we're exposed to, like, 1 + 1 is 2.
Yeah.
Right? How about a manual that exposes kids to, like, hey, this is angry.
Right.
And angry for John might look like this, and angry for Susie might look like this, and anger for Joaquin might look like this, and it doesn't always look the same.
Right.
But it always feels the same.
Exactly.
And when you see somebody that's angry, it's not a good idea to push them.
Right.
When you see somebody that's angry, here's some of the things you could do to support them.
Right.
Or when you feel angry, here's some of the things that you can do to work through that energy. And teaching ourselves and other people that everything is energy. For me, that was a life changer. For me, that
100%.
was something that I was like, oh, it makes it so much more like you're able to handle it when you see it like something that is changing and is transforming.
You're able to control you.
Right.
And that's the only thing we have to do is control you. Like it's it. For me, it's all about taking it to like the appreciation for all of it, because again, like I control me. I've always had control over me, so that means that everything I've ever experienced has been in my control. Every way that I've ever felt, I felt it. I'm the one that chose it. So it comes to an appreciation. So I wouldn't like if I could have a manual, if I could go back and somehow I wouldn't want it. But I feel like all of the things that I chose to feel and the ways that I did it helped me be here so that I can create a manual now.
For others.
Exactly.
Yeah, I feel that way too because not everybody is in the right circumstances. And I see this in a generational dynamic where I've seen grandparents and parents and children, and they're all stuck together.
Right.
None of them have resources. Maybe something traumatic happened where, they're all grieving, or they're all stuck in abusive relationships and don't have access to help or different circumstances. But I think that giving tools and sharing tools, the people that I've seen do it are people that have been like the lotus flower, right? They've gone through shit and then found beauty, and then there's a blossoming, and now they're able to share that beauty and that blossoming. But it wasn't an easy path.
Right.
It wasn't a path that I wish on others.
Right.
I don't wish it on my children. Or people that I know, the suffering and the pain and the trauma that I've been through. But if I hadn't had it,
right,
I wouldn't be who I am.
Exactly.
And I wouldn't be here talking about it as openly, because I feel like people have so many reservations with discussing how they're not okay.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think that's a really good point that you just made. I think it's a really, really good point that you made, because I feel like we see that a lot. We see that, like, that's really what's all that we see talked about on the mainstream of everything is the problem and how bad the problem feels and how, you know, like this sucks and this sucks and this sucks and this sucks. I mean, it's even a marketing strategy, you know, like.
Oh yeah, that's why you want to go for what hurts,
right?
And then you want to offer the solution.
Right.
That's marketing 101, and then you hook them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so like, for me, it's like, why aren't we talking about the solution? Talk about, hey, I love you just because I love you.
Right.
Like, simply because I want to love you, I love you, and guess what? There's nothing you can do about it. You know, like that kind of thing. Like sharing that kind of instant connection. I was on a call the other day with Hunter and I. That's a coach I work with. We don't work. We passion. You know, it's beautiful. But anyways, I was on a phone call, and the phone call was about, or a Zoom call was about a disagreement that we were having, and it wasn't really a disagreement. It was literally like we both felt like, wait, what you said doesn't align with what we feel. It doesn't really align with what we truly feel. So maybe let's talk about that, right? So we talked about it, and it started out. The person that we're talking to was very, very businessy, very like, this is business, you know, we're not going to be personal. And then at one point we were all crying, literally all in tears, laughing, crying together. All the business walls broke down. All the like the reservations broke down. So like, for me, like, it was just another example at leading with unconditional love for you goes past all of the bullshit.
Well, that's one of the things that I'm seeing in corporate America is that old school thinking, right? And you don't have to be a mature person to have old school thinking, right? Like, I'm not saying people over the age of 50 have old school thinking, right? There's younger people that have old school thinking, but old school thinking is we can't show emotion in our jobs.
Right.
And I think one of the clashes that's happening in corporate America, or even small business America, is the fact that human beings do not leave their feelings and their personal life at the door.
Right.
It's impossible. Even if you made it a mandate, it would not happen, right?
Exactly.
You cannot force humans to do anything.
Right.
You cannot, because we have the power of choice.
Exactly. That's why robots are so appealing right now.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I'm not kidding, right? They're easier to deal with.
Exactly.
They don't talk back. They don't have lives.
All right.
They don't have feelings. But I think what companies are starting to understand is that you have to cater and you have to honor how people feel, because it impacts everything we do. It all starts with a feeling that turns into a thought that creates a behavior.
Right.
Period. End of story. You can't change how we're wired.
Exactly.
And they're starting to understand that we have to discuss these things, and we have to allow people. You know, I've seen companies really resist giving people time off or giving people mental health benefits. You know, they want them to have insurance. They want to force them to get blood work done. And I'm like, okay, you're forcing somebody to take a static look at how their blood is that day, which tells you very little, by the way. Like, it doesn't give you much. Yet, you're not training people to say, hey, when I show up to work pissed off, I'm going to piss other people off, which in turn is going to be a reflection on the culture in the company, the environment. If people want to come to work, they're then going to take that home, and that partner or wife is going to take that to their work, you know? And so it is this constant cycle that I think we've ignored for a really long time. I
feel like that's on purpose, though.
Oh, of course it is. That's what I was going to say. It all started because you said we ended up crying, and I've heard this my whole life from all the people that I know that have been in the work we don't cry at work. We don't show feelings at work.
Right.
You know? And I'm like, so where do the feelings go?
Yeah. What do you do with those all day? You know.
I think you make TikTok videos about how much you hate your job.
You know, and like for me, like what I would do, like really do with that feeling, because I mean I've had lots and lots of jobs. What I would do with that feeling is I would deeply internalize it. So again, I'm doing exactly what I'm talking about doing now. I was doing it in reverse. Deeply internalize it. So I'm deeply looking within and saying like all these horrible things, and feeling like this trapped, and the feeling of trapped is perpetuating all this shit that I'm talking to myself.
Right.
So I'm deeply seeing the truest of me being a piece of shit. You know, like I'm like, well, that was the belief. So again, everything that you are is all from within. You know, everything, all your senses are gathering information right now, and where's it going?
Right.
Within, right? So, like that's where I felt with, you know, having a job that I hate, or feeling like I can't get out, you know. But it's again, that's what I created.
Mm-hmm.
Once that information again becomes wisdom, and you see, wait, hold the phone. Wait a minute. I'm doing this. Like I can change this. I don't have to be affected by your shitty attitude or your shitty attitude or, you know, your I don't know what's attitude, you know, like I don't actually have to be affected by that.
Right.
What?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay.
But how do you, I think unless you've taken the time to do some self-empowerment and self-growth.
Absolutely.
You don't even know what that means.
Right.
You know, it's like when we were talking about letting go.
Right.
I have people ask me all the time, like, that sounds great. It sounds great, right?
Right.
To say, I don't care what they say to me, or I'm not going to let that affect me. Or,
yeah.
You know, I wrote a kid's book. It's called You Can't Pop My Bubble.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that.
And my
so
son
cute.
reminds me all the time, Mom, what about you can't pop my bubble? When he sees me running, you know, often in traffic as I'm cussing at people that are like cutting me off or whatever.
Yeah,
he's like,
I love
what
that.
about they can't pop your bubble? You know, like
you're like,
reminding
right.
me, right? Yeah.
You're right.
So
right.
how do we help people?
Oh, I love that.
How do we help people start practicing? We have about 8 minutes left. So if you could give people one concrete, tangible thing to start practicing today, how do we choose to not let what happens to us change how we feel in that moment?
So I feel like it goes to the start of your day, whether it's you wake up in the night or the morning. When you wake up, before you move out of your bed, before you like get out of bed, like open your eyes if you can't help falling asleep, but open your eyes or close your eyes and visualize what you want, how you want to be right then, not like in the future. Don't allow your mind to stay, because it's gonna wander to what you gotta do today. Mm-hmm. That's okay. Bring it right back.
Don't reach for your phone.
Exactly.
Don't reach for your tablet.
Yeah.
Don't turn on the TV. Be with you.
Exactly. Be with you. So internally, what you're doing in your mind right now is you are imagining your absolute best self now, right? Now, what you're doing, what your brain is doing chemically right now, is you're switching from melatonin to serotonin. So you're catching your brain in a part where it's open for program. Mm-hmm. It's open for how this chemical that's going to keep you awake is going to be perceived, right? So that's the science about it.
Yeah.
But the you know, internal side of it is what you're doing is you're practicing feeling good about seeing a vision of yourself. Mm-hmm. You're practicing like connecting that reality, because when you see it, it might still be a vision or something that you're just seeing. But when you practice feeling it, again, you're telling your brain, this is how I want to function today. Mm-hmm. And then also you have a tangible understanding of how it feels mm-hmm. to be that version of you just created.
Right. I call it shifting into how you want to
exactly.
feel. Right. You shift that vibration, and I always talk about having a toolbox for shifting into how you want to feel. For me, it's music. I have my song, my list. Mm-hmm. my mixtape.
Right, absolutely.
Of the songs that always, no matter what has happened, no matter how hard it is, I listen to that song and my body's like, I want to feel good. I want to feel good. I want to move. I want to feel good.
And I'm happy.
Yeah, you know that feeling.
Absolutely.
Like, I think that's the power of art, is that it provokes you to feel a certain way.
Yep.
And along with that, which by the way we should do on another show, is how tragic it is that most of these artists, right, create this beautiful, energetic, transformational art, whether it be paintings or music, and usually it comes from so much turmoil.
Right.
Usually it comes from turmoil. Like, and you hear their stories, and they're seeking something out of the creation of their music. So I think the point is that we're all suffering, that pain is inevitable, but that in these power struggles of how we choose to regulate our soul, right, there's a thermometer that comes with that. And it can be 105 degrees if you live in Texas, you know what I mean? And you can still be cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you can be cool and collected, and that's my tip. So my favorite morning sort of prayer or meditation, because I repeat it a lot, is let me feel cool in my mental space and peace in my heart.
Yeah.
Because, and I don't mean cold, I mean, and what I mean by cool is objective and neutral and non-attached to the results, because we didn't even touch on this, but I feel a lot of this choice and this ability to control your outcome, a lot of the fear with owning it is expectations.
Exactly. Yeah.
But that's a whole other show.
So thanks for setting up the next show.
Yeah, there we go. Expectations. That'll be our next meetup, because I think that's so important.
Absolutely.
The fact that we set ourselves up for failure.
Yeah.
Through expectations.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, root yourself in detachment from outcome. Yeah. Is my advice.
Absolutely. And you know that is all about you, and I love that the only person that can say that, oh, I didn't get what I expected is you.
Right.
Like, you're the one that created it, you know? It's
right. And I think...
And we borrow other people's expectations.
Absolutely. You know? But I think that's why when people, like, go from non-financial abundance to, like, winning the lottery, there's depression.
Right.
They get depressed.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't bring them what they thought it would.
Right.
You know, like sex, power, and money. Remember,
heard that.
Money's not the answer. It's a tool. Power is not the answer. It's a choice, right? And sex can be beautiful or detrimental, and it's guided by power and money.
But all three are energies.
That's right.
You know,
that's right.
And that's the beautiful part about it is all of them, they're not bad.
No.
You know, all of them
they're part of the adventure.
Exactly.
They're part of the play.
It's manifestations of energy.
Right.
Wherever your energy is how you're going to perceive those.
Right.
And how you're going to utilize them and attract them to you.
Right. And how boring would it be? And I've seen this firsthand. People that are very wealthy, people that have a lot of power.
Yeah.
I don't know about their sex life, but I know they're wealthy and powerful. I don't go there. But they have, they have a lot of deep-seated depression. Mm-hmm. And it's not a chemical depression. It's a depression from boredom or lack of purpose or lack of connection, because power and money detach you from the lay people.
Exactly.
You know, from that having to work, from that having to struggle, that the hustle of every day is beautiful if you embrace it.
Right. I feel like that comes from where you get power and money, you know, business. And again, business is separation of like the way you feel. You know, they tell you, hey, you can't bring your emotions over here. Right. You know, that stays at home. You be over here. You be a brick, man. You know, like that kind of thing. So, I feel like that's where it comes from. is it's like it's a learned behavior, just same thing as we all are as a child.
Right.
We have this learned behavior, so we have this learned emotional behavior, this learned emotional tendency, learned emotional default.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it feels this way. So this is the way it's.
I call it masks, right?
Yeah.
Some people have their work mask, and other people
Exactly.
have their, you know, mom mask or husband mask, and we wear these masks, and we shift to how we expectations, right?
Mm-hmm.
How we think we should be, or how other people are telling us we should be, and it's this lack of self-attunement. And alignment.
Absolutely.
And for those of you that are like, what the heck with those words? And how do I do that? Where do I buy that? You can't buy it.
No, but there are courses out there
that
that can help you find it.
Yes.
But it's all about you.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, okay, we have 30 seconds. So I'm
gosh.
so I feel like it was such a blessing that we connected. I know that everybody listening is going to super duper enjoy it, and we have other shows we're going to do. I just know it. I just know we're gonna meet again very soon. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so totally
So Wednesday
spontaneous.
at 2, tune in.
Oh yeah, that too.
And I'll see you next week. Have a great week.
Love you so much.
That was awesome.
Oh my god.
We have a lot in common. And I had to not renew my contract at the hospital because, well, that's a long story. But basically, I created my program, and they wanted to own it. And
yes.
I wasn't selling. I was not for sale. So